Thank you for joining us today. This is Cody Parsons here with a special guest, Derek Broyles. We are continuing our summer series discussing the book of Mark.
Hey guys, remember at the beginning of our podcast, we told you that there were going to be some special episodes. Well, today's going to be one of those. And so what we want to do is I want to take a moment and I just want to share with you just briefly. I don't want to take too much of your time, but we thought it would be interesting to kind of share how I kind of got into ministry. So in case you don't know, so I grew up in North Arkansas, and my family, we always went to church. And so I was kind of a church kid, but for me, I was the church kid that didn't want to be at church. And truth is, from the time I was probably 5 to the time I was about 17, 18, church never really stuck with me. And so I can remember, long story short, I won't draw out the story, but when I was a junior in high school, I had a group of buddies that I played baseball with. They invited me to church, invited me to church camp, and I went. And the Lord ended up, pulling on my heartstrings there, and it ended up leading to me following Him about 9 months later from there. But how I got into ministry is a very interesting story. So I remember I graduated in 2013. So the summer after my senior year, so this was after my first semester of college, I remember I was growing in my faith, and so I was a small group leader in the youth ministry at the church that I was at. And what that entailed was nothing, academic in a sense of I didn't teach a class, I didn't preach, none of that. What that looked like for me was I would literally pick up trash and literally move tables whenever the youth pastor would tell me to. So I was really just a volunteer, but truthfully, I think they were just trying to find a spot for me of something. So I remember I was growing in my faith, I was reading my Bible. So at that time, I worked nights at a grocery store while I was in college. And so I'd come home at night, and I remember I would read my Bible, and I would take notes. So I would read and take notes. And so the Lord really started stirring in me. I think people around me could see me walking and growing in my faith a lot more than I saw, because to me, I didn't see it. But I remember in the spring of that year, so this would be the spring of 2014, we went to this event in Central Arkansas called Arkansas Youth Conference. And I remember we were at this conference, and the dude that was speaking said that he went to Bible college. And truth is, I had no idea what a Bible college was in my life. So I remember I asked the youth pastor at the time, which was my youth pastor, I was like, what is a Bible college? And he told me. And so that was the end of the conversation. We got back from the event. But about 4 or 5 weeks later, he approaches me. He's like, hey, we're hiring interns at our church this summer, and I thought that you would be a good candidate, so I was wondering if you would want to do that. Now, if you've known me my whole life, I've always been a shy person, so the thought of this, I was like, I have no idea what in the world I'm getting into, but I thought I would give it a shot. So about a month later, we started the internship, and I remember it was towards the middle of June, so it was me and 2 other guys, and I remember they said, hey, part of this internship is you're going to have to preach a sermon. And when they told me that, and the church that I was a part of was about 200, 300 people, and I remember my eyes got so big to where I was like, no, I can't do this. And it gets even better. They said, hey, you and Derek, we got you on the schedule first. Now, the other 2 guys that I was interning with, they had preached before. For me, I'd never preached before. And I was scared to death. Like, when I tell you I was scared, I remember after that, I was talking to the youth pastor, and I thought, what in the world do I even talk about? I don't know what to talk about. And I remember he told me, he was like, you talk about something you know about. And I said, well, what that would be is the Bible. So anyway, so my first sermon I preached on Psalm 119. I still remember to this day. So the 2 days prior to the sermon, it was on a Sunday night. But I remember for 2 days, I didn't really sleep much, and I know the day before I didn't eat much at all, and I was scared to death. And I remember I got up there, and I believe it was June 29th, 2014. When I got up there, I remember it was like the Lord used me in a way that I can't explain, in a sense of like everybody that knew me, all the people that have known me my whole life, they were shocked to see what God had done in my life. And what happened from there is moment after moment, me saying yes to that one opportunity, doors just kept opening and opening and opening, to the point that I knew that there was something to this, not in the sense that I was good at it, because I really was not, but it was just the fact of the Lord was opening doors. And one of the ways that I felt called to ministry was about 6 months later, when I went back to the high school I graduated from. One of my old teachers, she came up to me, and some of you have heard the story, but she came up to me and she said, Derek, I heard that you were preaching. And I said, yes, ma'am, that's correct. And she said, when I heard that, I thought it was a joke. She said, because I couldn't believe that somebody as shy as you was up there preaching. And from that day, one of the things that I gathered was I believe that's one reason why the Lord has called me into ministry. Not because it's something that I ever wanted to do, but because I truly believe to this day that if the Lord can use a shy person, because truth is, while I may be able to get up and preach a sermon, I'm still a very introverted, closed-off person at heart, to where it's not something that, if it was in my own strength, I would not want to do it. In fact, I prefer the back seat, and I really do prefer the behind-the-scenes stuff way more than getting in front of people. But my point is, if the Lord can use someone like me, I truly believe that He can use anybody. And so when it came to ministry, the Lord just opened door after door, time after time. And there's been a lot of bumps in the road, I'm not going to lie to you, and that would be another conversation for another day. But when I look back throughout my life, if you were to ask me, what does the call of ministry look like in a nutshell, which is a very loaded question, I would very simply answer that question to anybody that would ever want to explore that question is, as a follower of Jesus and as a servant of God, that's all you'll ever be, as a servant. So the call of the ministry, very simply, is a call to serve. And since I became a Christian in 2013, I would say that's the correlating truth to it all, is serving. You serve, and what happens is, if you're faithful, the Lord just opens door after door after door after door. And so for me, that's kind of my story. I can give you the extended one if anyone ever wanted to sit down and talk to me. But I just wanted to take a moment today and kind of share with you little bits and pieces of my story. And hopefully it helps you to get to know me better, but also get to help to know how the Lord has used a broken, flawed person like me. And I truly believe that He can do the same for you. All you have to do is be willing to say yes. Thank you for joining us today. We hope that you are enjoying this series through Mark, and we look forward to releasing more, and hopefully you'll tune in and listen in next week. Just real quick, if you would subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to, it will help you get notifications for when we release new episodes. We hope you have a great rest of the week, and look forward to you tuning in next week.